Hey guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. So it's new cart time. It's Sunsoft Collection 1 and Delphine Collection 1 have arrived. In this first video we're going to be looking at the Sunsoft Collection 1 with 6 games. Let's get started. Okay guys, so let's have a look at Sunsoft Collection 1. Mixture of 8-bit and 16-bit games. There are 6 included overall. Some of them you may recognise. I'm not really overly familiar with all of them, maybe just 1 or 2. But definitely this is a new collection for me. I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into the games, seeing what they're like. We've got Mr. Gimmick, Blaster Master Boy, Johnny To Silius, Blaster Master, Aero The Acrobat, which is the mascot I guess at the front, and Arabian. Which is really quite interesting. So there we are, we've got 6 games. Let's open up the box. We've got the lovely cart. Let's see if we can get it out, which is pretty cool. Nice stuff. And we have our usual manual in the box. Let's have a quick look at it before we get started. There's a little bit about Sunsoft themselves. Amazingly founded all the way back in 1971. That's quite a long time ago now, definitely before I was born. So we've got a little bit about the games as usual. You've got Mr. Gimmick. This was called something else, I believe, in different variations across Europe. I can't remember, but anyway, some information there. That's a tough platformer. A Birthday to Remember. Oh, this is a little bit more about Mr. Gimmick, I guess. Interesting stuff. Blaster Master, which, you know, I keep all sometimes saying Master Blaster. It just seems to make more sense that way. I don't know why, but yeah, that's a kind of interesting game, which I'm looking forward to trying too. Oh, we've got some maps as well, which should help, because you might get lost a little bit in the game. Oh, another page as well. Wow, they're certainly going all out in this manual. We've got Blaster Master Boy, which is, this is a Game Boy game. Kinda looks a bit like a Bomberman style game, but it's not like a single screen. You can sort of scroll along to side, but it's kind of cool. There's boss levels too, I believe. Aero The Acrobat, which I kind of missed at the time. I think this is either the SNES or the Mega Drive version. I can't remember what one it was. It's one of the two. We've got Johnny To Silius, which is kind of a loosely based in the famous 1984 sci-fi movie. Yeah, it's obviously, if you look at it, it's quite clearly been, originally was supposed to be licensed as a Terminator game, but they got the license took off and they still made this game, which is kind of cool anyway. And lastly we've got Arabian, which is a kind of single screen arcade style game, and it's kind of good fun. I guess you need to collect the letters kind of thing, ideally in the correct order if you can spell, and that's that. So let's have a quick look at the Sunsoft Collection on the EXP, then we'll blast it up to the VS. Okay, so let's get started. We'll just start with Aero The Acrobat. Now this might be a fairly long video, so there will be chapters if you want to skip to the sort of game you want to actually see, or just skip past all my terrible gameplay, whatever you think. But Aero The Acrobat, I guess this is kind of their mascot, so to speak, and it kind of feels like somewhere between a kind of Sonic cum Zool game, although it's nowhere near as good as either of them. That's just a kind of a simple way of trying to describe what this game is actually like. And this one is kind of strange. It's kind of frustrating, and it's one of those games I'm not really sure whether I like it or I hate it. I really have no idea, and I'm also not entirely sure if it's a really good game or a really bad game, and it's kind of hard to describe. I think there's some people out there who'll probably love it, and yeah, just some people will probably hate it. But yeah, so you're some kind of, obviously you're an acrobat, an actual bat by the looks of it, I guess, but yeah, you're in some kind of circus. You go through the levels. It's really strange. There's usually something you need to collect in the levels, or you need to sort of go and deactivate these kind of platforms. Like this platform here, you need to find 7 star platforms, jump on them, maybe 2 or 3 times till they deactivate and then find the rest of them. But the whole sort of game mechanics for me are a little bit strange. You can look up a little bit like you can in Sonic the Hedgehog to see your whereabouts, which can be quite important, but at the same time it's not massively helpful. And it's not one of these games that you want to play like Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, you don't want to zoom through the game as fast as you possibly can. You really need to take your time. Like, these are one of the platforms, just sort of jump on them a couple of times to sort of deactivate. And you have a couple of moves at your disposal. You kind of jump and then you have this kind of a spinny down thing, or you can spin up the way. It works very strange. Now that's a checkpoint which comes in quite handy. And if you jump through those hoops you get extra points as well. But you can see there's lots of dangers and spikes, and you only have the 5 lives at this point in the game, and they tend to disappear pretty quickly. You can look at the bottom left hand side of the screen, those are hit points, I believe. You can collect more hit points through the actual game. But yeah, I just found that the sort of jumping, the way to destroy enemies is weird. You can't jump on their heads. The only way to take them out is really by using that kind of spinny thing like that. It really is weird, I don't know. You can also collect those stars and use them to sort of take out the enemies as well, but again, that it definitely felt a bit weird to me. You can only stand still while so you can actually chuck those stars, but there's a few enemies I found that just wouldn't want to die either. They seem invincible, so really weird. This bit's frustrating as well because in later parts of the game it's sort of strategically placed that if you just go straight into it you'll probably die and hit some spikes, so you have to actually move it. You can see you've got space to move it left and right there. But the initial levels, I suppose, are fairly straightforward. I don't know, you really have to have a heck of a lot of patience to want to play this game any further, because I felt it was like a bit like Tin Head, where you kind of die constantly and it just doesn't seem like it's your fault that you've died. It just, the enemies just jump into your space, or the enemy slides onto a spike or something like that. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to make of this game at all. Like, they're just died by touching that fire. I had no idea it was coming up. But yeah, like I say, I'm not really sure what to make of this game, if it's really bad or really good, or it's just me, or I don't know. I really don't know. It's a frustrating game to play. It looks really nice. Certainly the sounds and the graphics are really good, which is probably a recurring theme of a lot of the games on this collection, which is obviously a good point. But yeah, it's a frustrating game. You're going to have a ton of patience to put up with it, that's for sure. So no doubt throughout this game it is extremely frustrating. A lot of times I've died and I just don't feel it's my fault. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. In this particular part here as well, jumping across, you can obviously have a bit of patience and just wait, or you can collect those wings and you think, yeah, I'm going to make it to the end. Then somehow it deactivates and then you die, hit the spikes again. This thing happens all through the game and it is very, very frustrating indeed to play, which definitely caused me to curse and create some new swear words that I never knew existed. Now I have to admit, this was a pleasant change in sort of game style, where you kind of have this kind of almost Pilot Wings style part where you go through. these checkpoints just for extra bonus points, and then try eventually to land in the water below. Kind of funny when you don't land in the water and hit the ground. Sometimes it's just a bit of luck. You've got this one thing mechanic that comes in just to put you off course, just for the sake of it. It feels a little bit off to me. I don't know, it just doesn't seem right. It just doesn't seem to make any sense to be here, but here it is. It certainly breaks up the gameplay, I guess, and it's probably more fun than the actual platforming elements, which is kind of amusing, I guess. But yeah, it's a nice change, I suppose. So overall, I really don't know about Aero The Acrobat at all. I've got very mixed feelings about it at all. I certainly kept playing it. I kind of enjoyed some parts of it, but got frustrated, swore a lot, kind of come back. I don't know, I just felt that there's something not quite perfect about this game. I think you certainly have to have a lot of patience to want to play through it anymore. It's not, I don't know, I'm not really sure. It's not the worst game, it's not the best game. Some people will like it, some people will hate it. I really don't know. It's a strange one indeed. One thing for sure, you will have to have a ton of patience to want to play any more of this game. But that probably sums up pretty much this cart in general. You have to have a ton of patience to play all these games. Right, so moving on to the next game, which is Arabian. Now, I believe this is the NES version. It's a kind of arcade style game based on the original arcade game, which are kind of different. I think, if I recall, the differences were the fact that in the original arcade game you actually had to collect the letters Arabian, whereas in the NES version here you're collecting kind of animals, horse name, stuff like that, different types of spelling. So if you can't spell, then forget it, you just pick them up in any random order you like. If you want bonus points, then you really want to sort of pick them up in the correct order to spell out some kind of a name of some sorts. But yeah, kind of frustrating game, really hard. It certainly seems like an arcade game, and I certainly got frustrated. It reminded me a little bit like the game we've got coming on Indie Heroes Collection 3, which is Retro Dodo. Or Doodoo, I can't remember how you pronounce it, but yeah, it's pretty much like that. Collect things in the right order, avoid the bad guys. You can kick them, I guess, but oh, it's very hard, very, very challenging. And interestingly, this game I don't think has been released outside of Japan, so this is quite a good thing that we've got on the Evercade cart. But it's a very hefty, challenging game, that's for sure. You only get, I think it's 3 or 4 lives, and only managed to get to, I think, the 3rd level, where I just got completely stuck and couldn't make any progress. The first few levels are, sometimes you'll probably complete it within a few seconds and you think, what was all the hassle about? And other times you'll just die consistently. So yeah, it's a little bit weird. I felt that the enemies are, there's no sort of logic to them. They seem random. Their movement, they just seem to go wherever they like. It's a bit strange, but yeah, it's alright. If you've got the patience for this sort of thing, yeah, I've said that word again, patience, then you'll probably enjoy it. But me, I've absolutely no patience at my age, so again, I just got frustrated and probably swore quite a lot. But yeah, if you do collect the letters in the right order, you just get a nice meaty 5,000 bonus. You might get more as you go through the game, but as you go through the game, it definitely gets harder, and trying to collect them in the right order, forget it. Try to even just complete the level, that's hard enough as it is. Okay, let's move on to Blaster Master. It's another NES title. This one has another weird story to it, where your pet frog, Jason's pet frog, has escaped, and you need to rescue it. It's went colossal in size for some reason. Yeah, this is typical Japanese style story, which probably was obviously made for that Japanese audience, and they appreciate the weirder the better. But for sort of more Western audiences, these stories are just a bit strange and weird. I know some people love that stuff, which is fine. Now, if you have nostalgia for this game, I think you're going to get a lot more out of this than maybe people just picking this up for the first time. Like me, I'd never played this back in the day, never had an NES, so never had the game, never appreciated it at all. But I know there's a lot of people out there that love this game, which is fine. But for me, I'm not really sure what to make of it. It's kind of a platformer style game, blasting game, I guess. And you start off in the tank, but you can obviously jump out as Jason throughout the game, and you actually have to jump out. There's sections where you can't go any further with the tank, you need to jump out on foot. And you also can change your different weapon styles as you can pick up different sort of pickups as you go through the game. Some of the enemies do drop health potions, power-ups, whatever as well, which is helpful. But yeah, it's a tough old challenge, this game. It really is hard as nails. Just like this cart, it really is a tough, challenging cart. Certainly not for the faint-hearted. If you don't like challenging titles, then you may want to look elsewhere. So yeah, it's just a word of warning. Every game is very challenging, very tough, but if you like that sort of thing, you'll absolutely love this cart, there's no doubt about it. But for me, I'm not sure what to make of this game. It's kind of just okay for me. It's certainly got a lot of depth to it, and thankfully Blaze have included a map and the manual to help, because the game does feel very maze-like. You have a lot of different doors to go through. Apparently it takes you to different stages, and you might have to retrace your step and go back again. So there's certainly a very meaty challenge in this game. It's not bad, it's not bad. You're going to have that patience again to sort of put up with it and sort of make your way through the game, because it is very, very tough. Seems like a decent game right enough, but not really my cup of tea at all. But it seems decent enough. Right, moving on to Blaster Master Boy, which is a Game Boy game, and this is probably my favouriteest game on the collection. I really quite enjoyed playing this one. Obviously, it's a kind of a spin-off to the popular Bomberman games, which is kind of obvious once you start, but it's got a lot more depth, I think, anyway, to those games. And it's not designed as a multiplayer game, it's just a one-player style game. And yeah, it's a Game Boy game. Now, one thing worth noticing, if you look at the sort of screen at the top there, it is in kind of a black and white style, but when you get to the gameplay, it's kind of that greeny sort of hue, which you kind of wonder why they've chose that style. Doesn't really matter to me, I don't really mind, but I guess something at some point would be good if we could choose which hue or colour that you want to sort of play with, because there's probably tons of options. If you sort of play any of these games through emulation, you can probably fix this in the background and choose whichever variation you prefer. I'm not really sure which I prefer, to be honest. I can't really remember. I think this is probably more what it would have been like originally, if I recall, rather than the black and white sort of style that you may have seen in some other games that they've used for Game Boy. But anyway, let's get back to the actual game. So obviously you've got access to different bombs and different pick-em-ups. You've also got your blaster as well, which you can take out the enemies. And the basic idea of the game is trying to find the key to open up the exit and then move on to the next stage, which is sometimes a boss level as well, which sort of show up. But there's tons of pick-em-ups, there's tons of depth to this game that you probably wouldn't expect. There's different style of bombs as well. There's pick-em-ups that you need to use that help you see in the dark. There's also the shield tier that will let the enemies bounce off you, which is fantastic. There's also, I think it's like a rubber dinghy which you need to use to walk over the water so you don't die, because if you sort of go into the water more than a few seconds, you will just drown immediately and lose your life. So you need to press the select button to choose between some of those pickups, like the dinghy and the sort of lantern to help you see in the dark. So there's certainly some depth there, which is quite interesting. I really actually enjoyed playing through this one, and yeah, admittedly I think this might be my most favourite game from this collection, which kind of surprised me because I think this one's probably maybe not the most fan favourite game, I don't know. I think a lot of people probably prefer the original Master Blaster, maybe Journey to Silius or something, or even Mr. Gimmick if you're sick enough to enjoy that challenging title. Yeah, but yeah, I quite enjoyed this one. It's a very good game, really enjoyed it. Okay, so moving on to Journey to Silius, which is another NES title. And this one's pretty good, but there's definitely a way of playing this game, and it's not by going in all guns blazing. You will get absolutely nowhere. It's one of those ones you have to take your time, and yet it is based on, or was supposed to be based on, Terminator. It had the license initially, and I like the quote there from Terminator, which is kind of funny, by Cade. But yeah, it was originally supposed to be like Terminator. It's kind of obvious, I guess, when you look at the style and the little opening movie sequence as well, which is kind of cool. There's something I need to point out as well here, which is probably occurrent in a few of the games here, especially the NES titles. On the NES, there was a lot of sort of sprite flickering, especially when there was a lot of enemies on the screen at the one time. And that usually gets aggravated even worse when you're recording these games on your sort of capture card thing. It just makes it a whole worse, usually because of the different sort of frame rates and things. So if you do notice that, then I apologise. It's nothing really to do with the game, although the games do have flickering in them as per NES standards. It certainly seems a lot worse when you're capturing it on the footage here. But anyway, it's just a little thing. If you don't want to watch this sort of opening sequence, I'll leave a sort of chapter if you want to jump to the actual gameplay. So there's no doubt something that Sunsoft definitely got right in their games was the music is absolutely brilliant. Really great through pretty much most of the games. Now you can obviously choose between different weapons, you can pick up more weapons as you go. You need to press, I think it's start or select to go into that menu there to choose the different weapons. You will probably have to do that as you go through the game. Some of the bosses, it's a lot easier if you've got the machine gun, for example, and sometimes it's better to have the shotgun, which shoots in 3 different directions for some reason, which is certainly more helpful depending on what you're actually doing. But I would sort of recommend that you take your time going through this game and just try and take off the enemies one at a time rather than trying to go through sort of guns blazing. You will die very, very quickly. So yeah, spam those save states and take your time and you will probably make better progress. But even in saying that, it is a very, very tough game to play. Just like the rest of these games, super challenging, very tough, sometimes a little bit frustrating. But yeah, it's actually quite enjoyable to play through this one. I like how it works. If you take your time, you will definitely get more out of the game and enjoy it. Sometimes the jump in there is a little bit frustrating. I felt as if I didn't mean to jump on that. I didn't plan to do it, but it just happened. But yeah, really decent enough game. But play it slowly and try to enjoy it for what it is. Go in guns blazing and you will not last long at all. Probably wouldn't even see the end of this level. Okay, so let's move on to the final game, which is Mr. Gimmick. Now, I've not been rattling on about it being a challenging sort of collection of games. This game is probably the most challenging, probably the most frustrating game on the collection. It is tough as heck, but there's a lot going for it as well. It looks really nice, it's got a great soundtrack, and interestingly enough, yeah, as it says here, it was only available outside of Japan and Scandinavia, which I think is where it was called Mr. Gimmick. In Japan, I think it was just called Gimmick. I think I might have that the wrong way around, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, if you want to get the true ending, you need to collect all those things. Yeah, no chance, not a chance that that's happening for me. But yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there like this game. They must be really sick, because this is a hard game, and it's frustrating as hell. Thankfully you get a lot of lives, which is certainly helpful, and you are going to want to spam those save states like crazy. And like a lot of the other games in this collection, it's got a really silly story that makes no sense to anybody, and there's actually a little bit in the manual that goes over the story about what happens, but I have no idea. It almost starts off like a Gremlin style game where the fathers went off and bought this sort of green creature thing, and it's came back. Somehow the toys have amazingly come back to life. The girl Mary, I think her name was, is vanished into thin air, and then Mr. Gimmick, as it's called, has, I don't know, somehow came to life. The toys have came to life. I don't know, this is bonkers, absolutely bonkers. So your task is then to rescue Mary from wherever the heck she is. I don't know, and somehow you've got magic stars as well as your weapons. None of this makes any sense, but yeah, probably typical Japanese style weird stuff. But yeah, it makes for an interesting game, but their stories are absolutely bonkers. Okay, so you can see you start here with 9 lives, and you've got different potions you can pick up. Some of I think the orange one gives you a little bit of health, and the pink one gives you more health. And yeah, I think you need to hold down one of the buttons and up to activate the potions and other sort of bombs that you get. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky to actually activate. Now you can actually use the star as a platform, but for here, for example, you can actually use it to then reach that platform above, and there's a secret part all the way up there, but I can't bloody do it. For some reason I can't. Somehow just can't time it right to sort of stand on the star to sort of use that as a platform. And a recurring theme in this game, you'll die lots, and lots, and lots. So yeah, I would recommend spam the save states so you don't get too frustrating. As much as I love that tune, having it restart all over again does tend to get annoying a little bit, but there's no doubt about it. The tune and the music in this game is absolutely brilliant, really catchy, great fun. It feels like a cutesy platformer, but it's more like a really stupidly annoying, frustrating platformer. It should be some kind of horrible music instead of this lovely cutesy music. But yeah, if you love that challenge, I think you're going to love this sort of game. But for me, I swore more than any other game on this collection whilst playing it, because the amount of times that you die because you've slid off a platform, you've just not done the right thing, you kind of thought something was going to happen, you tried to jump a platform, you missed it, you slid off, you hit some, I don't know, water, died, I don't know, there's so many different ways that you probably died that you just don't feel are your fault. And it's frustrating. It really is frustrating. There's certainly a decent enough game there, but like I said through all this sort of video, patience is the key here. You're going to have to take your time, have a little patience, take your time, and try not to swear too much. So to my final thoughts on the Sunsoft Collection on Evercade. I've certainly got mixed feelings about it. There's no doubt this is an interesting collection of games. If you try to buy these games sort of separately, physically on their own for the original systems, it would probably cost you a small fortune. So on that aspect, I know I usually harp on about the games. There's not enough games in the collection. Once you recognise the background, I guess, and play these games, there's a lot of depth to some of them. I think it's fine. The value is absolutely fine. I've sort of got over that. Always would like to see more games, because some of the earlier carts we had tons, but I think it's just a sign of the times. But I think overall this is certainly gave me mixed feelings. Some of the games I quite enjoyed, some of the games I got really frustrated with. There are certainly some very challenging games here, very frustrating games as well. So if you don't like your games too challenging and frustrating, you probably want to avoid this. But if you like your games like that, and you have nostalgia for these games originally, you'll probably love this collection and want to buy it. So that's really where I stand with it. I think there's certainly two sort of groups that will probably, some will avoid it and hate it, and some will absolutely love it. For me, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm not really sure what to make of it. I think if I wasn't collecting all the carts, I'd probably give it a miss. Just the fact that I'm at that age now, I just don't need that frustration and gameplay. But anyway, that's just me. Guys, let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching. We'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.